I'm sorry. I've been trolling all week because I thought the Atlanta Falcons. I saw the big fella's reaction on TikTok. They were pissing him the hell off. It looked like big fella was about to cheat on his diet. Hell, I wouldn't blame him if he cheated on his diet that day. I mean, he could have ordered himself a bacon cheeseburger with a large fry and Oreo shake from Five Guys. But they brought in Tua Tagovailoa to a 1-year deal. Now, BRF, you mentioned prior to the show, they brought him because of the style of offense, Kevin Stefanski. Fair enough. And he's a left-handed quarterback because you dealt with Dylan Gabriel during the time in Cleveland. Miami, they cut Tua, and because of that cut, $99.2 million. A lot of money that they had to cut, and then they signed Malik Willis. Atlanta, Tyler Algier, no surprise to me that he was going to be gone. He's in Arizona now. Wish him all the best. James Pierce Jr., fortunately for him, he doesn't have to deal with 5 years in prison, but he's still dealing with some charges. BRF, I'm going to let you go first. Were you surprised or shocked with the Falcons signing Tua, considering Tua's durability issues and considering how awful his play was last year?
When you look at it from the Falcons' perspective, I knew it was either going to be Kyler or Tua. I'm gonna just keep it a buck. It was going to be either one of those two. To be honest with you, I'm not surprised. Shockingly, I'm not surprised. It was going to be one of those two. I think I get, yeah, as bad as Tua was last year, it could be. You could think about a multitude of things that could have contributed to all that. I mean, you got to look at the Miami Dolphins franchise as a whole. You know what I'm saying? They're not exactly, pristine in terms of like how they operate. So we can give them a little bit of a pass. But still, you didn't play well, and you also didn't really even when you were going through the concussions and the injuries, you still weren't fully kind of like protecting yourself. Now, one thing I will give him, he torched us with one eye. I will give him that. He torched us with one eye. And I think you have to look. I think
you're talking about the Atlanta game.
The Atlanta game. I'm talking about lit us up with one eye.
That 50 piece with 20 extra flats.
God to my I mean, it's not. I mean, poor. I remember that game. Poor Denver Broncos that night. Poor Denver Broncos that day. So it's not like he's not capable. It's not like he can't do this, because he really should be happy with the situation he's about to come into in Atlanta. Because honestly, I feel like they're at some point.
Was that offense and the fact that you're indoors, given the fact that you're not known for having the strongest arm, and you also play in New Orleans as well, which is indoors.
Yes, I think it's the indoors aspect of it, which I think was what swung Tua to want to come to Atlanta. And let's be honest, you can go back to his Bama days. It's not like he plays bad in Mercedes-Benz. It's not like he plays bad there. So he has a good history in Atlanta in that dome.
Except that SEC championship game.
Except that one SEC championship game where it was like, kind of like a reverse of fortune. He got hurt, and then Jalen Hurts came back in and took it over and came back and beat Georgia, won that game with Alabama. So that's one of the few times he did.
Yeah, and that was also the game that also cost him the Heisman Trophy, because had he finished that game and played well, he would have won it. Because before,
yeah, he would have won that. But this is what I'll say. I do like what Ian Cunningham has done since he's come in and taken over that GM spot, because he knows he doesn't necessarily have the most money to spend this season. He knows he's not punting 2026, but he knows 2026 there might be some hardships. But I like what he's done with this roster. I like I like them bringing in Azeez Ojulari for the defensive side of the ball. I like that pickup. I like the Jahan Dotson pickup. I really like the Samson Ibukam pickup, the defensive end. Samson Ibukam, he's fresh off a couple years ago. He had 9.5 sacks in 2023. He didn't play much 2024. He came back 2025. He played one game. He had 2 sacks. So, I mean, come on. Limited play, still made big impact. So, what Ian Cunningham is showing me is it's about building the depth of the team, but he is a guy that loves draft picks. He loves building through the draft because he knows, let's see, with Tyler, it's Tyler Algier, and it was Arnold Albuquerque went to the Eagles. He knows he's going to get some compensatory picks. That's Ian Cunningham's game. He loves the draft. He loves building draft capital. And I really like the idea of a GM that understands building depth, not only in free agency, but through the draft. And I think that's what he wants to do his first couple of years here. Now, going back to the Tua situation, I personally think Michael Penix is going to beat him for the job, me personally. But if he's ready, if he's not ready, they're going to go with Tua. I like his fit in Stefanski's offense. Stefanski is a ball control guy. He's going to have a field day with Bijan Robinson. He's going to have a field day with Kyle Pitts. Ball control, the intermediate routes. We know Tua doesn't have the biggest arm, but you know what? In Kevin Stefanski's offense, he doesn't need to throw it deep a lot.
And so even if he does, he has a nice deep ball, though.
Exactly. And he's honest to God, has got one of the better deep balls in the league. He's got one of the more underrated deep balls in the league. If you ask him to throw deep. And it's not like Drake London can't go get it when he's asked to go get it. He's one of the better wide receivers in the league. I think he's a top 10 receiver right now currently in football. I like the situation for Tua. He's got a decent offensive line there. You still got Jake Matthews. You still got Matt Bergeron. You still have Ryan Newsel. Chris Lindstrom is a top 5 guard in football, and you're going to get a fully healthy Caleb McCary back. You're getting him back. So I like the position. I like the position of these offensive line coming back, hopefully fully healthy. He's just got to be. With the type of talent Atlanta has, all he's got to do is be smart with the ball. He's got to be smart with the ball. He doesn't have to take a lot of chances. When all else fails, check down to 7. When all else fails, check down to 7. He's arguably the best player in the entire league. When all else fails, check down to 7. You ain't got to take all these crazy chances. You don't have to do that in Atlanta. Just be smart. Like I said, I wasn't a big fan of the signing, but ultimately at the end of the day, what I always try to do with certain signings, being a fan, we can focus on the negative all we want. We have to look at positives, and we have to look at where there could be a silver lining. And where I look at it with Tua, it's a fresh start for him. He's getting a fresh opportunity in a better offensive situation. He's getting a fresh start. Now he's got it kind of like with Kyler. He's got to seize his opportunity because we know if Penix is healthy, he's not the future here, but he can at least make something of himself. If Penix is not healthy and he can't get up speed, he can at least make something of himself to give him a shot to stay here. Ultimately, he's got to make the most of it. I like the fit with Kevin Stefanski. Though I like what he's going to do with him. He's going to roll him out. Tua is not the most athletic guy in the world, but he's got decent legs. He's going to be able to move him around. He's going to move him out the pocket. Kyle Pitts is going to be his best friend, and just intermediate routes. Not going to have to throw deep too much. I like the fit. It makes sense for Tua, but he's got to stay on the field. That offensive line's got to play up, and he's got to stay on the field because I promise you, he gets hurt, and you're right back at square one. Especially if it's another concussion. If it's another concussion, I almost feel like even though it's only $1.3 million, that $1.3 million is just if he gets another concussion. So he's got to be smart with it. He's got to protect himself. He's got to protect the ball. This, even though it is Tua we're talking about, it's not like the NFC South isn't winnable. The NFC South is still a winnable division. But I think right now it's really on Ian Cunningham and Matt Ryan. Identify the talent, get them in, and allow Kevin Stefanski, allow Jeff Ulbrich to really do their thing. So we'll see where it goes. It's way too early now to try to talk about what this person's going to do and what this person's going to do because I know how Falcons fans are. They're freaking out at the fact that they got Tua. honestly, at the end of the day, they would have cried no matter who they got. They didn't want Kyler. They didn't want Tua. So it really doesn't matter at the end of the game. At the end of the day, you gotta make the most of it. You gotta do what you gotta do. So we'll kind of see where it goes from here. But
Well, they brought in Tua to your point because the scheme are fit. Because how's Stefanski and Kyler going to fit? Kyler runs more of the air raid offense. Stefanski runs more of a pro style type of offense, which Tua would fit in. But BRF, the concerns with Tua has been durability, and not only that, the competition. I think if you look at the Falcons schedule, which I'm sure you and Champ are aware, not only you got the Panthers and the Buccaneers, you got to deal with home games. You got to deal with Chicago, Detroit, Baltimore. You got to deal with San Francisco. You got to deal with Kansas City, and then on the road, you got to deal with Green Bay. You got to deal with Pittsburgh. You got to deal with Washington. So this is going to be tough with this schedule. But
it
I
is.
think, but with the defense. But here's the thing with Tua. I think for Atlanta, it was I was laughing because Atlanta. I mean, you go from one left-handed injured quarterback and you go with another. But Tua in Atlanta, it's indoors. You don't have to worry about much of the weather. 8 of those games are going to be at Mercedes-Benz Stadium. You're going to play one of those games in New Orleans, which is indoors. As long as it doesn't rain, you should be fine in Tampa. And as long as you don't have to deal with cold weather or in the fall, you should be fine in Charlotte. So for Tua, and also if we're going to criticize Kyler and his leadership, Tua, let's not forget what you did last year by throwing teammates under the bus during that press conference.
Yes,
So you
indeed.
can't be doing that as well either.
No, exactly.
And on top of that, Tua, you led the league, if I'm not mistaken, in turnovers. So, and you struggled with the weapons that you had last year with that offense. Imagine with this offense, with Bijan, with Drake London, with Kyle Pitts. Darnell Mooney is gone, but you did bring in Jahan Dotson. So I think so. And shout out to Seahawk Daddy. He said Tua upgraded his wide receiver and offensive line. But again, that's not the question. The question with Tua is what he can do. Can he stay healthy? Is he going to be good enough for the Atlanta Falcons? And if he's injured, and if Michael Penix Jr. is injured, okay, if you're Atlanta, what's going to happen? Champ, I knew you weren't excited of bringing in Tua. You've often called him Tua, turn the ball over. How shocked were you with the Falcons bringing in Tua?
I was real shocked. I thought they was gonna bring in Kyler Murray, especially considering the fact that he was gonna be getting league minimum. That would have gave us, more of a shot. Because his abilities never in question. It's just his know-how. But I will say this. The starter is gonna be whoever doesn't end up at Grady Memorial or Piedmont. And and if you don't know what that is, people, that is the two famous hospitals down here in Atlanta, Georgia. So whoever doesn't end up at Grady or Piedmont, that's who's going to end up in the star quarterback. But buyer beware. The star quarterback might be right up behind him in the hospital bed right next to him. So, I mean, it's going to be interesting, man. But at this point, you got to do something. I mean, you got to do something. And whether we like it or not, that offense was different when Tua was in the ball game down there in Miami. It was a whole different offense. We got to give credit where credit is due. Like I said, let's not even forget. Like I said, and
No, he's not.
Stop.
No, he's not.
But I digress. But let's not forget that 50 piece with 20 extra flats that they put on the Denver Broncos. Let's not forget that when he does have the tools and he is on the field, that he is capable, especially when you got time and you're not out there in the elements like that. You're not out there in the elements. He's not going to be out there in the elements too much. And I'm pretty sure when he plays elemental games, they're going to turn around and hand that ball off to Bijan. You know, it's going to be interesting to see what happens, man. There's going to be an interesting proposition. And I do not think, no disrespect to you, Seahawk, I do not think that Tua is better than Kyler at this point. Kyler was an MVP candidate. And Tua had a hell of a lot more weapons than Kyler did. Tua had weapons galore. When we think about that offense down there.
Yeah, Jalen Waddle, Tyreek Hill, Devon Chain,
and Rasheed Monster. And that was supposed to be.
I think he had Gesicki at one point.
Yeah.
Yeah, he had Gesicki too. Oh, yeah, they were loaded.
Yeah, that was supposed to be.
And you also had an offensive mind and Mike McDaniel coming out of the Kyle Shanahan coaching tree. But he continues, you give Tua time and a consistent run game, his turnovers will go way down. Yeah, that's because you're not asking. Yeah, but I think that's also because Bijan Robinson being the focal point, they know he goes as far as they know the offense goes as far as he goes. But at the same time, they're going to ask Tua to throw the football.
Yeah. And you're going to have to
with those types of weapons, with Pitts and Drake London. But again, with Tua, the other concern is him going up against top-notch competition. That's going to be another concern with Tua because we've seen him in Miami, even when Miami, and they've done their part to accommodate Tua. What's been the knock?
Yeah, look, that offense down there, let's just face it, that was supposed to be the next greatest show on turf. That was supposed to be the next greatest show on turf. That was supposed to be equivalent to the 2016 Atlanta Falcons. That was supposed to be equivalent to the Broncos in the Peyton Manning era. That was supposed to be that. You know, you had Tyreek Hill, who had a Super Bowl pedigree. Jalen Waddle. You had a decent offensive line. You had an offensive-minded coach that knew how to win up under Kyle Shanahan. That was supposed to be the greatest show on turf reincarnated. Unfortunately, it wasn't. And they, you know, when they got out there and they had to face real competition in the playoffs, you saw what happened. So it's going to be interesting to see what he does in the NFC South. It's going to be interesting to see. And if you really want me to be honest with you, I mean, I'm going to just be real. Like I said, no disrespect to UC Hawk, man, but I will just be real. And look, don't be surprised if the Raiders sign Russell. But I'll say this. Tyler has been on the field a hell of a lot more than Tua. At one point, we was asking if Tua needs to retire at a certain point because he was getting so beat up. And remember, when the great DeMar Hamlin hit him, it wasn't one of those real malice Gene Atkins or either, you know, Jack Tatum type of 70s football hit. He, you know, boom, he hit him. But, you know, he ended up having a seizure right on the field. So there was a point where we was questioning if Tua was a little bit fragile at a certain point and if he needed to retire. But gonna be an interesting proposition. I hope that this is your opportunity. But Atlanta, I will say this in close. Atlanta, listen to me. Listen to me very closely with both ears. If Tua has a good season, don't mess up and give him a huge contract. Don't do that crap. Don't. Because there's a difference in playing for a contract and being good. For real. All right? So don't mess up. If he has a good year, good for it. But don't bet the farm on him. We've done that way too many times.
Do you think that the Falcons should look at a quarterback in this draft, even though this is not like really the best exciting draft class regarding quarterbacks, but they may have to look at one just in case because, again, even though Penix Jr. is coming back, but again, the concern with him has been durability. Tua's had durability issues long before he stepped into the National Football League. He's had injury issues in college.
I'm thinking if they do, probably fourth to sixth round.
Fourth or fifth.
I'd probably look at like fifth round. I would probably take a flyer because I know the one name that a lot of people were throwing out there was Haynes King, and he would actually make sense. And Kevin Stefanski's scheme as far as like what he did at Tech, he improved his arm. He improved on his arm as far as like his accuracy and everything like that. But he doesn't have the biggest arm in the world. But I mean, he would make sense in Stefanski's scheme. I think Haynes King would make sense. And I'm trying to think who else maybe. He was the first name. He was the first name that came to mind. Him being going to Georgia Tech, being an Atlanta guy. He was the first name that came to mind. But honestly, I think Haynes King in the fifth round. I'd have no beef with it. I think they'll probably take a flyer on the quarterback, probably like fifth, sixth round.
Look out for Drew Law. I haven't been hearing a lot from him as of lately. He was the shoe in to be the first overall pick this year before he got hurt. But look,
the Penn State quarterback.
Yeah, if he drops, look for Atlanta to kind of take a flyer on, although he's hurt.
I think that would be the best case scenario if they were to take a quarterback, to be honest with you.
Yeah. Drew Law is that guy. I like Drew Law.